Hi, everybody. So today we're going to start talking about the human body systems and what life processes each one performs. So remember that we have organelles make up cells, cells make up tissues, tissues make up organs, organs make up organ systems. We're going to be on the organ systems level. And we have a few that we're going to talk about. We're going to start by talking about the digestive system, which performs nutrition, obtaining materials, for building blocks and for energy. So that's nutrition. That's the digestive system with your esophagus and stomach and intestines and a bunch of other stuff that we'll talk about. And then we have transport. That's movement of materials to, from, and within cells. And we have the circulatory system for that. After that, we'll talk about gas exchange. You need to bring in oxygen for cell respiration. That's brought to all your cells by your circulatory system, but then the carbon dioxide that's made in your cells has to be brought back and has to be removed from the body. So the respiratory system is for gas exchange, for bringing in oxygen to your blood and taking carbon dioxide out of your blood and exhaling it, gas exchange. So excretion, getting rid of wastes made in your cells. There's several different systems. When you exhale carbon dioxide, you're performing excretion. When you sweat, you perform excretion. But one of the primary systems necessary for excretion is the urinary system, getting rid of waste made in your cells. Regulation, control of body systems in order to maintain homeostasis, a constant internal environment. So regulation comes with two systems, or two systems perform regulation. The nervous system, which includes your brain and your nerves, and a system that you might not have heard of, your endocrine system, which is a whole bunch of separate glands all throughout your body. And so those are the systems that we're going to talk about. Today, we're going to start by talking about nutrition. Now, nutrition is obtaining materials and making them usable for building blocks and for energy. And remember that plants are autotrophic and perform autotrophic nutrition, but animals, including humans, who we're going to talk about now, are heterotrophs. That is, that we cannot make organic materials on our own for food, and we have to steal them from other individuals, ripping plants out of the ground, killing them, and stealing their food. So once we do that, though, we need to make them usable. And the digestive system is about taking the compounds that we take into our body and turning them into a form that's usable. If you remember from the osmosis and diffusion lab, you can have starch, but it won't fit in your cells. So your digestive system will break it down into sugar so it will fit. So making it usable. So one of the main things that we have to do is eat, right? We have to get to those organic compounds. Plants don't have to eat because they make their own. So we have to obtain pre-made organic molecules. And then we have to make them usable by breaking them down into small enough materials that they can fit across our cells, right? Starch won't fit. So if we eat starch and we bring it down to our intestines and we try to bring it to our cells through our circulatory system, it just won't fit in. It has to be broken down into smaller materials. And of course, starch is broken down into what? Sugars, right? Starch is a polysaccharide, sugars are monosaccharides, right? We digest starch down into sugar. Proteins won't fit into our cells either. We have to digest those as well. Those are broken down into amino acids. So the breaking down of starch into sugars or proteins into amino acids, those are chemical reactions. They don't happen spontaneously. We need something that controls that reaction and makes it happen faster. Of course, that's enzymes. So all of this is controlled by enzymes. So throughout your digestive system, you have enzymes that are breaking things like starch down into sugar and proteins down into amino acids so that they can go into your circulatory system and travel to your cells and fit across the cell membranes. Enzymes, of course, are fussy, right? They change shape depending on the conditions they're in, and the shape determines whether they can do their job or not. Because remember, enzymes have to fit to their substrate. So the digestive system has to be very carefully controlled. In order to maintain homeostasis, you have to have a constant internal environment because those enzymes in your mouth and in your stomach and in your intestines need to be the right shape. And therefore, you need to have certain conditions right. What are the conditions that affect the shape of an enzyme? Well, one is pH and one is temperature. So for example, In your stomach, you have enzymes that are just the right shape to fit their substrate in an acid. That's why you make acid in your stomach. Acid doesn't digest food, but acid allows enzymes in your stomach to be the right shape so they can digest food. When you get to the intestine, you have a really high pH. It's not an acid, it's a base, because the enzymes that work in your intestines are the right shape. In a base, temperature affects enzymes, but almost all human enzymes have an optimum temperature of 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit, 37 degrees Celsius. And so the system that does all this, as we said, is the digestive system. And up close, it looks like this. We have the mouth and the esophagus that leads down to the stomach. And the stomach is just below your rib cage on the left. And then that leads into the small intestine, and that leads to the large intestine. You really are like a giant donut. You've got one hole at this end and one hole at this end, and nothing ever crosses a membrane that goes all the way through it. You digest the proteins down into amino acids and the starch down into sugars all through these tubes. And by the time you get to the end, this is the stuff that could not be digested, and that is removed out of the body. And that is the digestive system. We'll move on to the circulatory system and transport next time.